Hey folks, this is Fernando doing another video for the More Survivalist, and in this video I'm going to be covering self-defense during flash mobs, riots, and protests. Right now with the problems over in Ferguson, it's understandable a topic that people are interested in. It's not just about what's happening right now in Ferguson. This is the kind of thing that in troubled times it happens quite a lot. Could be because of protests giving incidents like the one in Ferguson. It may be riots or looting for any other reason. You have these during blackouts, you have these spontaneous or planned, the kind of thing that happens a little bit more often when crime gets worse. This is something that I've pretty much lived with for years in Argentina. It's a lifestyle almost. You just get used to having, riots, protests, roadblocks on the streets, very common as well. Pretty much any reason is good enough just to cause trouble, and if possible, loot a little bit. That's always welcome, especially during the holiday season. It seems that in Argentina, looting is kind of a hobby. So I've been in many of these. I've got caught on foot with my car on many of them. This is from an email that I got from Dan. It says, Ferfal, do you have any thoughts about how a concealed carry weapon holder should react in a flash mob situation that turns potentially violent? I know that the best scenario would be to leave when the mob begins, but say you're trapped in a store when they start trashing the place and they see you and decide you're to blame for your economic troubles and start to come at you. In such a situation, your life is in a definite danger, but you can't just start shooting indiscriminately. Any advice? With the Ferguson ruling expected any day now, things might be getting interesting in a hurry. Well, yeah, first of all, you mentioned here, I know that the best scenario would be to leave when the mob begins. The best scenario would be not being there in the first place, all right? If you already know, for example, Ferguson, we've already known for quite some time that there's potentially going to be trouble there in the streets. Don't be there, don't go there, and especially don't take to the streets when you know that there's trouble. It's ridiculous, it's funny to even mention it, but people just seem to like going to just see what's happening for themselves. They don't like watching it on TV nearly as much as they like being there on the streets. For some reason, for one reason or another, there's always thousands of people there on the streets when these things happen. People just like the freak factor of it, just watching it firsthand. Avoid the temptation, if that's your case, if you're feeling tempted to be part of such a thing, don't go there. It's a potentially dangerous situation that you're getting involved in, and you just never know if it's going to be turning against you. Any race, any skin color that you may have, it doesn't make any difference. You can still get hurt when such things start happening. When there's rioting, looting, civil unrest on the street, no one is really safe. Just don't go there. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. Yes, absolutely. If you happen to be caught, say for example a flash mob, all of a sudden people start showing up and trashing the place, as you say here. Yes. Or if, for example, you take a wrong turn in a city that you're not familiar with, or there's a protest that you don't know, and it starts getting more violent. This has happened to me many times in Argentina, that I was just running errands or working or doing something, and all of a sudden, you saw that there was a group of people, or you saw them running in your direction because they were running away from the police after doing something. It may end up happening. If that happens, of course, move away from it as fast as possible. Maybe not running, but as fast as possible. Even if you have to run, it's better to run and not be caught by it. But in general, the thing is this: in general, when there's looting, looters have a specific target in mind. Looters want stuff, want stuff to steal. All right, if that's what they're thinking of, It's not about you. So if it's not about you, don't make it about you. Don't get confrontational with the people there. Just move away as fast and swiftly as possible and avoid the problem if you can. Now, specifically, if you are caught in some place without a way of, without an escape, well, that's something that you should try to avoid doing as much as possible. And if we're thinking here of buildings, of walking into rooms, whenever you walk into any store, any room of any kind, a mall, anything, you have to always identify at least 2 potential exit points. All right, the first one is the one you just walk through, the main door or whatever it is that you walk through so as to access that place. As soon as you do so, get used to immediately looking for the exits, for the emergency exits. This may be needed for fires, riots, or absolutely anything. You just need to have an alternative way of leaving that place. If looting starts, then go for your exit, the nearest exit that you have. Now let's suppose, worst case scenario, everything is going nuts, it's getting very violent, and you are trapped. Well, first of all, understand that there's several things that have already gone wrong. You were first in a place that you were supposed to be. It happened by surprise, and you didn't manage to get away from it. And you've made it about yourself, or because of other reasons, it's suddenly about you. If it's a race thing, if it's a religious thing, if it's a social class thing, depending on what part of the world it is that you are, what specific incident is taking place. Let's suppose that everything goes wrong and it's suddenly about you, and these people are violent and your life is at risk, and you do have your weapon with you. Of course, wherever and whenever possible, to be armed, always be armed. The gun that you keep in your safe is not going to be doing you any favors. It's not going to be of any use to you when your life is at risk. Whenever you can, be armed. Now, is it a good idea to just bring out your gun and start shooting people? Of course not. That goes without saying. That's obviously enough, not your first course of action. A couple things first. You should have adequate training with your firearm before you even start carrying it. And just going shooting with a friend of yours, with a cousin, with an uncle, with your dad, or just going for target practice every once in a while, that is not adequate training. You need proper training before you actually start carrying a weapon for self-defense. If you haven't gotten real adequate training on defensive use of your firearm, it's like driving without knowing how to drive, right? It's like getting into a vehicle and start driving without having any idea of how that's done. That's the kind of level of incompetence that we're talking about here. You're going to be doing something wrong, and doing something wrong with a gun has very serious consequences. All right. In the event that there's a crowd becoming violent towards you, training may be extremely important, not to do anything fancy Hollywood style, but just to remain calm even when drawing your weapon. Many times just drawing your weapon is enough so as to make it clear that you're capable of defending yourself, and people in general don't want to get shot. That's a simple matter of life. Now, how cool you react to that will depend a lot on how skilled you are with your firearm. That's why it's important to have the training. You bring out your gun and you don't do anything stupid with it, that alone may be enough to get you out of there. Just having a firearm with you, the surprise factor is turned all of a sudden in your favor. You maybe have a few seconds because people are not certain of what you're about to do. If you're about to start shooting, they're worried, they're scared. They've all of a sudden decided that they're not going to be beating on you because you're armed. You can obviously start shooting, so they hesitate for a minute or for a few seconds. Take advantage of those seconds. Remain calm. Training will be crucial here in this stage. Remain calm, make your move, escape when you have the possibility. If still things keep going down against you and you have no other choice, you're trapped with people coming against you, yeah, sure, you decide that either you just get beaten to death by the crowd, or you do something. You shoot the one that is attacking you first, right? And it's going to be already a pretty disastrous event. But in general, people, as I was saying before, don't like getting shot. I've seen that happen in some of the riots in Argentina. Police officers facing looters, they just took down one or two of them with a shotgun, even with less than lethal buckshot, those plastic buckshot shells. In some cases, that was enough so as to dissuade the crowd, send them away. Awful situation to be in. Could it happen? Yes. Would it be even worse to just get killed with no chance of defending yourself? Yeah, of course. But as I was saying before, there's so many things that have to go wrong before you reach that stage that with a little bit of common sense, with a little bit of awareness, you would be avoiding this to a great degree. And if it ever comes down to it, yeah, you better have your firearm whenever it is a possibility. Guys, as always, there's more stuff coming up. If you're interested in learning more about this kind of subject, I suggest reading my book, The Modern Survival Manual. It's a link there below. Guys, take care, have a great day, see you on our next video.